Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is episode 6 of season 2. And this week we have a very special guest on. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. Go ahead, man.
Hi, guys. My name is Ryan, and I run the Twitter account RetroGameBrews. And I am a variety streamer. I am a tournament Twitch host as well. And, one of the things that I'm really proud of is I'm also a part of a podcast called the Gamers Week podcast, which I am 1/3 of. We host a weekly audio podcast, and basically we cover the week's news, and we also do kind of a retrospective on the history of gaming as well. And, we also have special guests on occasion that have to do with the history of gaming. So I've been doing that since January, and absolutely love it. So
that's awesome.
Cool. Thank you guys for having me on the show, though.
Yeah, I've listened to your podcast. It's an awesome podcast. So definitely, guys, if you're into podcasts, go check it out. And we do have a tournament coming up, correct?
Yeah. So, last year we had an opportunity to do a tournament for Stand Up to Cancer. A good friend of mine, Love Retro BTW, he is a part of the Stand Up to Cancer crew, and asked me to be a part of it, and then said, hey, would you be interested in doing like an annual tournament with Mario Kart 8? And last year, we got an opportunity to raise $1,500 that night. It was amazing. Had a lot of really, really great support and a lot of really great people. So we're going to be doing it again this year. And Friday, the 26th, starting at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, we'll be doing that and raising money for a good cause and having some fun.
Right, and that will be broadcasted on your Twitch, right?
Correct. So it'd be twitch.tv/RetroGameBrews.
Yeah, and our buddy Yaiser over here is going to be competing in it.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for it. I hardly ever played before, though, so
he's probably logged. What was it? We checked, right? Like 450 hours or something like that.
400. A little under 400.
So only a few, right?
Yeah. He played it a couple times.
Couple races.
He's somewhat into the game. But yeah, I'm super excited for that. So definitely, guys, check that out because that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So a couple of getting to know you questions. What would you say your introduction to gaming was? Maybe your first console, how you got it, that kind of thing.
So the first game I ever played was at my grandmother's house, and she had an Atari 2600 nice. Back in the mid 80s. And the first game I ever played was Keystone Capers, and really, really enjoyed that as a kid, because it's really simplistic, but it's got some fun elements to it. But, one Christmas we ended up getting an NES action set and absolutely fell in love with the Nintendo. And realistically, for me, the Super Nintendo is kind of what sealed my fate when it came to being a gamer. So many great titles on that system. It just became a lifelong obsession after that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say your favorite types of games to play are, like your favorite genres?
I'm an RPG fanatic. I'm a turn-based RPG fanatic too, because Retro mostly had that, right?
Yeah.
JRPGs at that. I really enjoy the story. Of somebody who wants to get kind of engrossed in a game, and interestingly enough, I know most people don't like grinding in an RPG, but it some reason relaxes me. So I enjoy just putting it on and grinding up levels so that I'm ridiculously powerful as soon as I go into the next stage of the game, and everything is good.
Oddly enough, the grinding levels was probably my favorite part of World of Warcraft.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Which is probably everybody else's least favorite part. Because for me, there's no pressure, right? Like I'm just sitting here doing quests or whatever, just trying to get up to level 60. And then once you get up to level 60, then it's like, now you have to know all the raid bosses and that whole thing. And if you pull somebody too early, you're an idiot and you get kicked out of the group. So it's like that kind of thing stresses me out. I don't like that.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, the whole grinding thing was, I just kind of play that game by myself. And I'm like, I love this MMORPG by myself. Yeah. No, we also like RPGs quite a bit here. Have you ever played, just because I'm only asking because we played this a couple episodes ago, and it actually got way better ratings than I thought it was going to, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses for the PS2. Have you ever played it before?
I have not. In fact, strangely enough, like Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was a kid I was
probably
just old enough, just too old to kind of get into it. I had friends who were into it, but Oddly enough, though, Pokemon, I was definitely too old to get into, so I used to play that kind of in my room where no one else knew that I was playing Pokemon.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses game it's so interesting because it's not really centered around. I mean, it's centered around Yu-Gi-Oh, but it has really like the story has nothing to do with Yu-Gi-Oh at all. And honestly, you could probably play it without knowing anything about Yu-Gi-Oh because it's really just a turn-based like strategy game.
Nice.
It's pretty interesting. So our Patreon episode is coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh.
So if you want your game played, then go ahead and join the Patreon. There's a link for it in the description. $5 a month to support, and you can put your game in there. And it's a much shorter list of games to be randomized from than our giant master list. So yeah, go check out the Patreon. And this week we played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. And I just have to ask you, Yaiser, did you have any prior experience with this game before you played it this week?
Very little, but a little bit.
Yeah, you didn't beat the whole game though, right? Before
No,
this week?
I don't think I ever beat it. No.
And what about you, Ryan?
Oh yeah, I played it ever since it came out. So
yeah, same for me. I remember getting it as a kid from my aunt, and I just remember like I wanted to rent it, and for whatever reason my mom wouldn't let me rent it like that week or whatever. And then like a few weeks later, because my birthday is in September, this came out in August, and I ended up getting it for my birthday a few weeks later.
Nice.
So I was pretty pumped about it. But yeah, I've played this game 1,000 times since I was a little kid. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, like I said, it was released in 1992. It was originally an arcade game. Did you ever play the arcade version of it?
I have, and interestingly enough, one of the guys that I kind of frequent with, he's also a co-host on some of the tournaments I do, Crunchy Kong. Me and him actually played it together and beat it.
Nice.
I think last year. So
nice.
I want to get one of those. I want to get like a legit 4-player cab of it, and I want to play through it with 3 of my friends because I think that would be just an awesome experience.
That would
absolutely.
But yeah, so did we beat the game this week?
We beat it together.
Yes, we beat it together. Ryan, did you beat it?
I did. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, this game, I guess this is the one like drawback to the game, I think, is that you can beat it fairly quickly. But it still doesn't really ruin the game for me at all. I still love the game. I was gonna say like how many hours have we played, but really it only takes about a half hour or so to beat the game. Ryan, did you play on like easy, normal, hard?
I play it hard, and a lot of that has to do with kind of my experience with the game, which we'll get into later. But yeah, hard's the way for me, which is not normal for me. I'm usually awful at games, so clearly I've had some time with this one.
Yeah, no, we played it on normal. It was Yaiser's first playthrough. We played it on normal, and we were able to beat it, I'd say, fairly easily.
Yeah. I mean, you carried us, but yeah.
Well, yeah, so kind of like you, Ryan. Like I've played this game 1,000 times, so you know, it kind of for whatever reason you just kind of have a better feeling with it when you play it so much. But let's get into the story for this game, and it just starts off basically all the turtles are sitting around the TV and they're just watching the news where April O'Neil is she's at the Statue of Liberty, and then you see Krang in his giant android body, and he picks up the Statue of Liberty and he's gone. And so they steal the Statue of Liberty. So that's essentially just the story, right? I mean, am I missing anything else here? That's pretty much it.
That's what the book says.
Yeah, until you get later into the game where they explain a little bit more about the whole Turtles in Time bit. But other than that, yeah you're right. Yeah,
because I mean, after essentially, what is it, 4 levels, I think? About 4 levels into the game, you get to the Technodrome and you fight Shredder, which honestly might be one of my favorite beat 'em up levels in any single video game, because you throw the foot soldiers into Shredder to do damage, and I think that's super creative. And then he basically banishes the turtles and the foot soldiers and all of his buddies all back in time. It's kind of weird how that works, but yeah, everybody goes into a time machine, and then you go all the way back to, I believe it's like 25 million BC or something like that. I think is the first level after that. But so as far as the story goes, Ryan, I'll start off with you. What did you rate the story out of 5 stars?
I gave it a 3, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad story. I just don't think that it's necessary. Like it isn't a compelling RPG kind of story where you're engrossed in it. It's a great way to put a shell over a fantastic beat 'em up. Without the story, I don't know if it would affect how I feel about the game.
Right.
But the fact that there is a story is a good thing. That's why I think that 3 level is probably a pretty good bet, at least for me, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and I would say for the most part I agree. I had it at 3.5. I do like the fact that they do the the back in time thing, and then you time travel forward in time from there on out, even getting to the point where now you're fighting Shredder in the future. Spoiler alert at the very end. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5. Exactly like Ryan said, there's not really much to the story, but for what it needs to do, it's kind of it's perfect. It's fine. Yaiser, would you give the story?
Nice. I gave it a 3 as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good enough for what it needed to do, but like you said, not crazy deep or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a little bit of a step back to how kind of intricate the Silent Hill story was, because that story was a little insane. But yeah, so Yaiser, let's kick it over to you for gameplay. How'd you feel about the gameplay, buddy?
Gameplay, I liked the gameplay. That's how I feel. I gave it 4 stars. It could have been better. I think they could have used a couple more buttons. I feel like I was just mashing Y and jumping sometimes, but it's definitely fun to play. I'm definitely not good at it, but it's still fun.
I mean, I don't think you can really expect yourself to be great at it. I mean, you really only played it for about 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, probably.
And honestly, we started doing the versus mode after we beat the game, and you were very close to beating me.
Was I?
Yeah. I mean, remember there was the one fight that you brought me down to 1 health left.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I do remember.
All right, so you gave gameplay a 4. Ryan, what did you give the gameplay?
Considering it's not an RPG, considering it's a fight, I can't even think here. A beat 'em up. That's the word I'm looking for. Considering it's a beat 'em up, I gave it a 5. I think that and as a kid, I wasn't really familiar with all of the things that you could typically do in Turtles in Time, but I ended up running a tournament for it. And rather than doing like a speed run for it, we did a high score for it.
Cool.
And it's interesting. You would expect you beat one guy and it would give you 1 point and so on and so forth. But depending on the moves that you pull off, you can either get 1, 2, or 3 points. 3 points, of course, is tossing the guy towards the screen. 2 points is some kind of special move, and then, of course, 1 point is just normal. But I found that was something that kind of brought me back, right? Because you're right, it's a short game. It's 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on how you want to play. But if you're really going to go for your highest score, that's a great way to keep coming and trying to do the best that you possibly can. So
for sure,
in that sense, that's really, really why I loved it. And of course, we had talked about this earlier, at least you had mentioned it earlier, the fact that one of the boss battles is you throwing guys at the screen. Which reminded me a lot of like Battletoads, the first boss you fight in Battletoads. You got to pick up the rock and throw it at the screen. But the fact that you're really in that first person perspective of Shredder is done. Chef's kiss, done very, very well.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I think I gotta agree, man. 5 stars here for the gameplay. It's one of those games that when I pick it up, I can't put it back down. It's very much it's very much related to like all my favorite SNES games, like Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World. Like once I start playing it, I'm probably gonna try and beat that game within the next day or two. I mean, this game it's pretty quick, but yeah, I'm gonna beat the game. Like I make it a mission at that point. I'm definitely gonna play it all the way through. I can't just play it for a couple minutes. So I gave the gameplay a 5. I think as far as like beat 'em up goes, it might be the most satisfying beat 'em up just ever. Like I haven't played Shredder's Revenge yet, and that's new. Ryan, have you played that game yet?
Not the new one, no. I have it on back order from limited run games, so I'm waiting for like the special edition to show up.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so I haven't played that game yet, so I don't know how much better like the beat 'em up has gotten, but man, like this game is just so satisfying. Every hit feels good. one of my favorite things to do, aside from throwing your enemy into the screen, which I think is just, again, it's very, very awesome. But I love slamming your enemies back and forth, because then you can also take out the other enemies that are running at you.
Yeah.
And it's just so key to be able to like use the enemies against each other in that way.
Very useful on the elevator.
Yeah, for sure.
Tight.
For sure.
I will say, as far as like the most annoying enemies, for me, it's any of the mechanical robot ones. I hate them all. The one that looks like R2-D2 is super annoying. And then even the little dogs. I mean, you can kill them in one hit, but if you miss them and they grab onto your arm or whatever, it's very, very annoying. So those ones are probably my least favorite. And the foot soldiers are cool because every different color does something different. Like the yellow guys throw bombs and the green guys shoot arrows, and the red guys have those like the shields, like the little blockers. And so it keeps the game fresh, even though you're really just fighting foot soldiers for like 25 minutes of this game.
Right.
So I think that they do a great job with that. And then I love the point system, like you were saying, with just the different ways you can kill the enemy. You get more points for that, and then once you get to 200, you get a life back, and I think that that's really cool. You can also do a special, which I can't remember. It may do this on certain difficulties. It may not do it on certain difficulties, but the special that you do, does it take something away from your health bar?
It does. Yep.
Okay. it may only do that on hard, I think, or does it do it on normal also?
I think it does it on normal. I'm not, but
okay.
Don't quote me on that one.
I was going to say we played it on normal, and I couldn't remember if it was doing it or not, but I know for sure it did it on hard. But yeah, I mean, the gameplay it's so good. I can't. It's very hard to get a better feeling beat 'em up than Turtles in Time, in my opinion.
Right, and if you add the versus mode as well as the time attack mode to it as well, so it becomes a game that you don't have to go through the same experience every single time if you want to.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And one of my podcast co-hosts actually has a few Twin Galaxies records for time attack with Turtles in Time. So
really?
Watching him go through and break those records was fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Frustration and trying to find the right path in order to get it faster and faster and faster. It was great to watch, for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, that's got to be awesome. Is there like a YouTube video that you could link to us later?
I could probably do that. Yeah, for
cool.
Sure.
Yeah, because I definitely want to see that. All right, let's move it over to visuals. I'll start off with visuals. I gave it a 5. I think it looks fantastic. It's one of those things where, like, I remember when the South Park games came out, and I was like, this looks exactly like a South Park episode. Like the newer ones, like what were they called? The Fractured Butthole and
Stick of Truth.
Stick of
Truth. Yeah. Those games look exactly like an episode, and I think that the 16-bit, like the Super Nintendo graphics, are good enough that this game looks like an episode of TMNT for me, like the original animated show. And the fact that it has all of the characters from the show in it, I just feel like they did such a good job of basically taking the show that I watch every single day and putting it into the best playable experience. The visuals just look so good. The background, again, all the character sprites, the enemies, like Bebop and Rocksteady, I thought looked awesome in this game. Super Shredder looked amazing. Yeah, 5 stars for the visuals for me. Cool. Yaiser?
I'll give it 4.5.
Okay,
I'll almost get there with you.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I can't really tell you why I'm knocking it down a half a star, but
that's fair. That's fair.
Sorry,
Ryan.
I would probably give it a 5, just for the simple fact that if you look at Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo and Turtles in Time in the arcade, they're almost identical. And to be able to do that on a Super Nintendo at the time was really difficult. I mean, you were only really looking at like a Neo Geo was able to give you arcade graphics. Now, granted, Turtles in Time for the arcade wasn't the best looking arcade game of all time, of course, but considering the hardware, I think it was pretty monumental achievement for sure.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Real quick, did you guys have a favorite boss, or maybe like a least favorite boss? Ryan, you can go first.
I'll go with least favorite, which is Slash, because he's so hard.
So hard.
I feel like Slash is, if you're a new player, he's the guy you is where you get a game over for the first time.
Yeah, I told Yaiser during our playthrough, which is up right now on the YouTube if you guys want to go see it. I told him during the playthrough, I'm like, this is the hardest boss in the game. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, he's harder than Super Shredder. He's harder than Krang. He's definitely the hardest boss in the game. And I don't know why they made him so hard, but he just is. Like, you can't attack him from the front. So really the only time you can attack him is when he's jumping across the screen. You have to like jump and kick his back kind of to get him to, kind of like fetal position up, and then you can start hitting him a bunch of times. But he's definitely the hardest boss in the game. I also think that the Bebop and Rocksteady is kind of annoying, and so is the Tonka and Razar. Any of the two together. But I always had fun as a kid messing up Baxter Stockman. I don't know. That boss battle I think is very nostalgic for me, but it's probably just because I played it so often when I was a kid because it's the first boss. But yeah, Yaiser, did you have a least favorite other than Slash? I guess.
Yeah. For some reason, when I played solo a little while ago,
I
had a really hard time with the Rat King.
Oh yeah, so that one is really just it's experience, I think, because you just have to know kind of where to line up. When he's shooting his rockets, you have to be right in between where the rockets go, and then when he stops shooting his rockets, you just go to the bottom of the screen, and then you'll avoid all of the red stabby thingies that he drops. I don't know what those things are called. Yeah, but I guess that's another thing I should have talked about with gameplay, but just the different level variations is really cool.
Very true.
And as far as like visuals go, Neon Knight Riders looks so cool.
Oh, so good.
That level looks awesome.
Absolutely.
Moving over to sound, Ryan, how did you feel about the sound?
That first level, the music that comes in the first level is extremely nostalgic for me.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, I hate to like give almost everything a 5, but that's a 5 for me as well.
Jeez. Nice.
And especially, I mean, even if you talk about the opening cinematic, right, where it plays the actual music from the cartoon.
Yeah, which surprisingly enough, a lot of games get that wrong. I don't get it. But yeah, no, I thought it was really awesome. So was there any other like tracks that you particularly like?
I like Neon Knight Riders. I thought that was kind of a cool futuristic soundtrack for it. And I mean, outside of that, they're all fairly good. I always did laugh at the one where it was Wounded Knee, where every once in a while you hear like a huh as part of the sound.
Yeah, that one's funny.
Yeah.
I think my favorite song might be either Super Shredder or, oh man, there's another one in there that I like a lot, and I can't remember what level it is, but all of these level soundtracks are good enough that I've downloaded copy or covers of them onto my Spotify playlist for my video game music. But I gave it a 4.5 because I felt like it was very, very good. I don't think it's up there as far as like soundtrack with like with necessarily like Castlevania and like Donkey Kong Country and stuff like that. I think it's maybe a tier below that, which is why I give it the 4.5. But as far as a beat 'em up goes, I mean, I don't know if it really gets better.
Completely agree.
Yaiser, what about you, buddy?
I'll land on 4.5 with you.
Okay.
I don't think I played this game enough though to really like remember the songs like you guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I don't know. But like the intro song alone is enough to make it give it a strong score,
right?
You know?
For sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you want to, like, Ryan, when you see the category aged, what goes into your mind? Like, how do you rank that? Like, how do you go about rating it?
I think for one, is it something that I would still enjoy today, despite the fact that I've played more modern games, and is it something that I would genuinely want to pick up versus if I had somebody ask me to play it, or if I was part of a tournament to play it. So to me, that aged feeling is something that still holds up today, that I want to continuously go back to time after time.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Why don't you get it kicked off with aged?
So with age, I'll give it a 4.5. It's still a fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite games, so it's definitely within my top 10 of all time.
Nice.
But as far as things go, I've started to kind of expand my horizons when it comes to beat 'em ups, and while I think it's probably uh, maybe top 3 in that genre as far as beat 'em ups go, I think probably Streets of Rage 2 is probably aged a little bit better for me. Just because I think from a gameplay perspective, it definitely plays a little bit tighter and a little bit more fun. Uh, but it's really hard to not give it a 5. I just want to kind of say that there are games out there that maybe I would prefer more, like
Okay.
Streets of Rage 2. So I guess that's maybe why I'm knocking it down half a point. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 4.9 would probably be more of an accurate
Yeah.
rating
No,
for me.
that makes sense. Funny thing about Streets of Rage 2, I loved that game as a kid. I can't for some reason get back into it, and I don't know if it's I don't know what it is about the Genesis controller that really kind of drives me away from picking up a Genesis again and trying to play that.
Mhm.
But the Super Nintendo controller, I just feel like is so
Oh,
much better for fighting games and beat 'em ups and stuff like that. So I think that's maybe why. Like, have you ever played Hyperstone Heist?
oh, of course. Yep.
How do you rate the two games together?
The one thing I don't like about Hyperstone Heist is the boss rush in that game.
Yeah,
I feel like they put that in there to extend because they ran out of ideas for levels or something. I don't know.
right.
And I've never been a huge fan of boss rushes, except for maybe Mega Man.
Mega Man. Yeah.
Mega Man does it well, but in Hyperstone Heist, not so much. But the other gripe that I have with Hyperstone Heist is that the scoring system doesn't allow for additional points, regardless of what you do with your enemies. So for me, I always wanted to do a Hyperstone Heist tournament, but it's like everybody's going to have the exact same score at the end, so it doesn't really matter,
Right.
as long as they beat up all the enemies. But not to say that it's not a fantastic game. It 100% is. It's actually, I would say some people prefer it from a controls perspective, just the fact that the hit detection's maybe even a little bit better, which is saying something compared to Turtles in Time. So, but I grew up with Turtles in Time, so that will always be on the top of my shelf.
This is I was gonna say this is my opinion on the whole Hyperstone Heist versus Turtles in Time. It's whatever one you played first, that's the one you're gonna like better.
Right.
Probably. I mean, like I said, I grew up with Turtles in Time, and I think it's far superior to Hyperstone Heist, but like I think the amount of different levels in it, the amount of different bosses, the fact that because I'm almost 100% positive you can't throw enemies into the screen during Hyperstone Heist.
Right.
And I feel like that's a major letdown because to me, that's one of the funnest parts about the game. So that's a little tangent, I guess. But for me, I gave this game a 5 for aged because I feel like it's just one of those games that feels timeless to me. I can pick it up whenever. The fact that they just made Shredder's Revenge and it doesn't look that drastically different than Turtles in Time. I mean, this game aged really, really well to me. So yeah, I gave it a 5-star. What about you, Yaiser?
I gave it a 4, only because like there's a ton of moves in this game. I just don't know how to do them, and I can't figure it out either. Like I don't know. I feel like it should be easier to like figure it out, or have like maybe there is like a start menu like move set page. I don't know.
There is. You can go into options.
Is there?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I should have looked more, but I couldn't figure out how to do anything but like the jumping kicks. You know what I mean?
Well, so I think really what Yaiser's talking about here is the fact that we're playing through the game, and I'm like, yeah, so you kind of want to hit the foot soldier, then wait like a kind of a second, and then hold the attack button, and then you'll throw them into the screen, or you'll like smash them back and forth or whatever. It's kind of like a timing thing. Like once you develop the rhythm for it, you just do it over and over again. And I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly. I don't know if I described it to him, but I just know I keep doing it. And he's like, it sure looks like you know what you're doing. And I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing, but I can't like explain it really. It's one of those things where, you're playing a game and then somebody's like, oh, can I try? And then you hand them the controller and then they're like, how do I do this? And I'm like, give me the controller back. I don't know. I don't know what button it is unless, I don't know what, like I have that problem a lot, I guess, but
and you're not alone, because when I ran that tournament, we had, of course, a DM group, and that was kind of the first thing that came up is, how do you do the throws? Tell me how to do the throws.
Okay, good. I feel a little better.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. So, I mean, our total scores for this game are really, really solid. So Yaiser was the lowest on it at a 4, and then Ryan was second with a 4.5, and I was tops with a 4.6.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty high. I mean,
very strong.
4.6 is the same score I gave Link to the Past, and it's 0.1 lower than my highest scored game of all time. Well, of the podcast so far, Donkey Kong Country. So I mean, it's right there with my favorite games of all time.
Yeah. Where is it overall? Like, it's got to be up there with overall too.
Yeah, like everybody's ratings,
yeah,
it's probably like third, something like that, because Fable got some really high ratings actually. Actually, Andy Cafe BTW, he was on for our Fable episode.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I mean, that's essentially Turtles in Time. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up about it, Ryan?
Nothing comes to mind. I think we've covered quite a bit of what the game is. So,
is this your favorite Turtles game in the series as far as like the first 4?
Hands down, easily. Yeah.
Me too. I was also a big fan. I played the first one and the arcade game number 2 for the NES when I was a kid. I never got Manhattan Project as a kid, but I have played it like as an adult, and that one's good. It's just after playing Turtles in Time, I feel like it's unplayable for me.
Right,
but I mean, I'm in the minority. I might be in the minority there, calling it unplayable. But there are some people that prefer Manhattan Project to Turtles in Time, which I think is wild. But anyway, people have opinions, I guess. Have you ever played Tournament Fighters for the SNES? The Stage Fighter.
Yes. Actually, I used to own a copy for the NES as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the more version.
Yeah. That's a rough experience.
Yeah. What did you think about the SNES version?
It's a fine fighter. I mean, I wouldn't put it in like the top tier, but it's definitely functional. And it's
as far as 16-bit stage fighters go, it's pretty decent.
Right.
So now is the part of the show where we randomize what we're going to play next week. And after I do that, so I'm going to randomize it, and then I will give our game for next week. But we always ask the guest for a recommendation to add to our master list. So just to not put you on the spot, we're going to, randomize the game first. But the game just has to be before, I believe, Gen 5, Gen 6 or something like that. It's before the PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360 generation.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So do you have a limit as far as length is concerned? Like how long?
So we have basically, if it's under 20 hours, then we'll add it to like our normal every week playthrough kind of thing. And if it's longer than 20 hours, then we'll put it into the master list where we just have like longer games, and that'll be like a season premiere episode, because we take a break. We take a week-long break, so that way we have 2 weeks to play a game. Nice. For episode 1 of season 3. So yeah, you can name whatever game you want, and then it'll just be put into a different list.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'm gonna hit that randomizer now. All right, another one of my favorite parts of the game, of this whole experience here is I vaguely get to describe the game to you, to both of you. Yaiser doesn't know what it is either. And I like to see if the guest can guess what the game is.
Okay, I'm game.
So this one can be easy, but I'll be very vague initially. So it's a racing game developed by EA Canada, published by EA Sports, released in 2001 for platforms GameCube, PS2, and Xbox.
Ooh. EA Canada too is kind of throwing me off here.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a clue, I guess.
Trying to look and see if I've got anything in my collection that might give me a leg up here.
I'll give you one additional clue. It's a snowboarding game.
A snowboarding game. Strictly snowboarding, no extra sports. It's not like
correct.
Okay, cool.
And it has voice acting in it by real actors.
Oh, then I'm not gonna. I don't know that one.
SSX Tricky.
Is it tricky? There was part of me that was like, it can't be tricky.
But... Yep, that's what it is.
That's awesome.
Have you played it before, Yaiser?
I used to play the shit out of that game.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Ryan, you said you played it before?
Yeah, and ironically enough, it's on my shelf and I didn't say it, so that's even worse.
That's funny.
It's one of those things because the genre is technically a racing game, but like you don't really think of it as a racing game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So, that I knew that was kind of gonna throw you guys a little bit, but it says that the main story takes about 11 and a half hours to complete. I don't know if you've ever gone to howlongtobeat.com. But yeah, it shows on there like pretty much any single video game you want. You just type it in the search and then it shows roughly how long it takes to beat the main story, the main plus extras, or completionist, which completionist in this game is 43 and a half hours, which is kind of wild. But yeah, so basically a ton of people kind of just input their own data and then it's compiled into one, number. Nice. So like SSX Tricky is based on 66 different user ratings. So it's a pretty cool site if you've never been to it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out.
But yeah, so what would you say your recommendation is for us to add to our list?
So I don't know if it's on the list yet, but one game I've absolutely fallen in love with since I bought it probably about 7 or 8 years ago. It's part of the Quintet trilogy. It's Soul Blazer for the Super Nintendo.
Okay. It is definitely not on the list. I played a little bit of it when I was in high school. I didn't get very far, but I've heard great things about it. Yeah.
It's essentially it's an RPG, but it's an action RPG, and it's just now bear in mind this is kind of the first game the Quintet came out with. So if you're talking about from a graphical perspective, it's not that thrilling, but the gameplay itself is really, really solid. It's a lot of fun. The music is fantastic. It does suffer a little bit from having to backtrack a little bit, which I don't typically like in games, but it makes it worth it towards the end. So
cool. Yep. Yeah, no, I'm excited to try that one out. You said you're a big RPG guy. I got to ask you, I know it's kind of on the spot, but if you had to kind of just throw together a top 5 SNES RPG list, what do you got?
Okay, so Chrono Trigger is my number 1. It's actually my greatest of all time of any game. So
that's Yaiser's. So
yeah.
Respect.
I've never played it.
Oh, you really have to.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we started this show, because I was telling Yaiser all about how great I think Earthbound is, and he was telling me about how great Chrono Trigger is, and I was like, oh, we should make each other play it someday. And then we eventually started talking about all the other games we missed out on as kids. So that's kind of the genesis of the show.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry. So Chrono Trigger's number 1.
Yep. Final Fantasy VI is number 2. Earthbound is probably number 3. I just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything here. You know what? I'm probably just going to make it easier on myself. Final Fantasy IV is number 4. And I'm going to go with Robotrek for number 5.
Okay. I've never heard of Robotrek.
No. Square Enix, like Mech Warrior kind of style RPG. It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Have you ever played 7th Saga?
I haven't, but I've heard of it. I've never picked it up.
That was one of the RPGs that I had played. And I always liked that one. That one I could play over and over again, as well as like Earthbound and stuff like that. There are a lot of RPGs that I had never gotten into. Like I'd never played the Final Fantasies until number 7. I played number 10 until Blitzball, and then I just stopped. I just got stuck at Blitzball and kept playing Blitzball over and over and over again, which I feel like happens to a lot of people on the first playthrough.
I think you're right.
Yeah, maybe.
I would have liked to see what Blitzball would have looked like on the Super Nintendo. That would have been pretty interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as Final Fantasies go, I haven't gotten into them a lot, but I do know that number 3/6, whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be one of the best RPGs of all time.
Absolutely.
And that's actually it's on our list of like longer games to do eventually. Yaiser's added a bunch of the Final Fantasies. We have Final Fantasy 9. You think that one's probably your favorite of all time, right?
I think so. 9 and 10 are both so good.
Have you
never played all of like the older ones?
Oh yeah. Oh, the 2 and 3.
Right.
Yeah.
I never got all the way through this.
Have you ever played number 9, Ryan?
Yeah, I've played 10 and back. So 10 to 1.
Oh, okay.
Is what I've played. I haven't played since past 10.
What was your least favorite?
I know I'm probably gonna catch flack for this, but
it wasn't 7.
It's 8, actually. I'm not a huge fan of 8.
I've heard a lot of people didn't like 8.
I couldn't get into it.
I think it's
going through 7 and then having that level of expectation and then going into 8. Just it didn't have the same feel to it. Now, if you started with 8 and then went back to 7, it's probably the same formula, right? Where you really liked 8, so 7 didn't work for you. But
yeah, I heard a lot of people didn't like the materia in number 7. Did you find that to be a problem, or did you like that?
I liked materia more because if you play through all the other games, right, with your standard characters kind of all the way up until 6, each class builds their own magic based off of just their experience. When you get into 6, they have the Magicite, which is great because that'll allow you to kind of swap things. I think materia did a better job than Magicite did, in my personal opinion.
Gotcha.
8 with the Guardian Forces and the junctioning, I think that made it too convoluted, in my opinion.
Cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I guess, I mean, that's pretty much it as far as Turtles in Time goes. I know we took a little bit of an RPG Final Fantasy tangent there, but I mean, you said you're into RPGs. We're in RPGs. I had to ask you about them a little bit,
For sure.
But check us out next week. We will be playing SSX Tricky with Rue from the Retro Room. He will be joining the show. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate you coming on. Check out his Twitch channel next Friday, right? August 26th at 8:30 Eastern time for the Mario Kart 8 tournament. And I'll let you go ahead and plug all your stuff one more time.
Sure. So you can check out our podcast, Gamers Week podcast, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. So just search Gamers Week. We're also on Twitter at Gamers Week PC. And, we have all those links like Patreon as well. So feel free to Google Gamers Week podcast and definitely check them out. And if you're interested in follow me on Twitter, I'm at RetroGameBrews.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I had such a great time, guys. This was a blast. So thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome.
Of course. All right. Take care, guys.
Peace.